I want to help couples that are struggling, and I want to equip the church to be able to do this better because I think that we in the church have a huge mission field. I think that the demand is great, and I think that the workers are few. So how do we equip people? And I ask myself this question every day. This is what I wrestle with. And, I wonder, what do we call this inside the church that will actually make this work? So I was recently talking to Luke Nelson, and he's Market Development Director at Prepare and Rich. And he and I were talking about this topic of, do you call these people marriage mentors, marriage champions, marriage coaches, marriage educators? I don't think either one of us really know, and we're kind of playing with the definitions just to see what works from getting people to sign up. And so I was talking to Luke, and he was telling me the story about how Luke has been in the marriage industry for a long time, and he's been equipping pastors and mentors for a long time. And I got to say, Prepare and Rich, love their stuff, and I love what Luke is doing. But we were talking about how he had an experience. They trained 20 mentors at a church. And then they put an ad in the bulletin and said, hey, we have marriage mentors available. And they didn't get many couples to sign up. And he's not the only one that I've heard this from. I've heard this from other people. And I've had the same experience. So my wife and I teach a class at our church, and we regularly get 50 to 60 couples that will turn up for the class. And we bill it as a class for struggling couples. And yet when we say that we have marriage mentoring, we just don't get much response. So I scratch my head on that, and I go, well, why is that? What are some of the challenges that we face as mentors, as church leaders, as we are trying to help couples? Because couples need help, no doubt about it. And so I have some challenges that I have thought about and come to the conclusion of. Love to get your feedback. Challenge number one is that mentors don't feel qualified. And I get this question is, can we really do this or not? And I wonder if the word mentor denotes somebody with a perfect marriage. And maybe it does. People go, wow, can I really do this or not? And who thinks they have a perfect marriage? I know I certainly don't. And maybe that's a challenge. And if you're a mentee, do you really want to go to somebody with a perfect marriage? I would rather to go to someone who has struggled and will be honest about how they got through that. So I have found in my experience that the best mentors are ones that have struggled in their marriage and somehow got out the other side, or they're improving and they're getting better. And just hearing their stories makes people feel better about themselves, better that, hey, maybe I can do that if you can do it. And helping to hear testimonies and experiences of this is what we were struggling with and what we did. That wisdom is incredibly valuable. But how do we convey that to mentors that, hey, we're not looking for perfect marriages. There's no perfect mentors here. So that's challenge number one is mentors don't feel qualified. Challenge number two is that the mentees, the couples themselves, aren't seeking help. And so there's been a lot of studies about help-seeking behavior, and I quote some of those in a paper on my website if you'd like to see that and get more details. But the truth is most couples will never seek help, and they'll never go to a marriage therapist, and they'll only go to their pastor at the very end. So, what can we do to make it easier for couples to ask for help? And to seek help. And I'd love to hear your feedback and what's worked for you. But I think somehow we need to lower the stigma of what it takes to get help. Challenge number three is, what's the stigma of a bad marriage? Nobody wants to lift up their hands and go, we have a bad marriage. And I was talking to one pastor about this, and he said, you know what? We just call it marriage education. It's marriage enrichment. It's, hey, do you want to improve your marriage? We don't say anything more beyond that. And I think that that's the right way to go. That there's no stigma of it being a bad marriage. It's just, we're looking for people that want to improve their marriage. And we're willing to give you resources to be able to help you to do that. And challenge three I've seen is fear of a time commitment. And I think sometimes the word mentor has this kind of feeling that it doesn't ever end, that it's going to go on and on and on. And people are afraid of that. They have a limited amount of time. They don't know where they should invest it. And so what I have found to be more helpful is to put a time limit on it and to say it's going to go for just a certain number of sessions. We'd like you to commit to those, and then we're done. And between you and I, though, I know mentor relationships that have gone on beyond that because they're both drawing some value from it. But I found it more successful when we say, this is going to be a class, it's X number of sessions, and then you're done. So right now, here's my conclusion. That you call it marriage education, you say it's going to have a limited number of sessions, and then when they're done, and you take it from there. Now, I would love to get more feedback on this, and I'm curious what other people have experienced. But I would like to hear from you. What's worked? How do we make it work? How do we, as leaders in our churches, help to be able to reach marriages and help them to be able to improve?